This is The Power Cosmic, our comic book podcast about anything we feel like talking about. I'm your host, Alex, and my co-host, Skylar, could not be here to record the intro, but he is in the rest of the episode. If this episode feels like it starts off very quickly, that's because there is a part 1, and this is a part 2. If you want to go back to hear our discussion on first appearances of famous DC Comics characters, look for part 1 before you listen to this. So now we're moving into Marvel Comics, or Timely Comics as it was known at the
for Marvel
time.
Comics #1.
Yeah,
right?
Marvel Comics #1. Where the Marvel name came from.
Yeah, and, you got I only read 2 of the stories in it, introducing the 2 characters that are actually... that were most important. The Submariner, who I think we'll talk about second, and, first of all, one of my favorite Marvel characters... The Human Torch. Not Johnny Storm.
Yeah, not the Human Torch you know and love.
No. This is the first android in the Marvel Universe. Living, thinking being. Just made, a synthetic body. And somehow, while making a living, thinking robot, the scientist didn't expose him to oxygen.
Yeah,
somehow he was just made literally in a vacuum. Which seems like so much work. And then he turns the robot on and is like, I'm going to unveil it to people. Exposes it to oxygen, and the robot just catches on fire and starts screaming, which is the funniest shit to me. It's like that comic where the guy's like, I've created a robot that screams. Why?
Yeah.
This is just a robot that's existence is pain. And how do you make a robot that just catches on fire and not notice that at any point that there's this huge design flaw that if it comes into contact with something that's literally everywhere, it catches on fire?
Yeah.
I love it so much. It's so stupid. It's the most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah. And you know what? This comic's good.
Yeah, no, it's...
This first issue of Human Torch, it's good. Or first issue of Marvel
so
Comics.
Funny,
first story
too.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's the best one in the book.
Yeah.
My God. And one of the best ones we read. I'm gonna go out on a limb. That's my hot take.
Oh, that's interesting, because I think I'm more a proponent of Action Comics.
Okay. Yeah, some of those are pretty good.
Or possibly some of the later ones.
This is one of the better ones we read, though.
Yeah. And the robot catches on fire when it touches oxygen. I'm gonna be cackling about that for the rest of the episode.
They don't super explain his creation, but there was a scientist...
Somehow he never came into contact with oxygen.
Yeah, and so this dude is like Midas, but with fire.
Yeah. And this robot is just, it's a very Frankenstein tale. He's like, gee, I wish... He doesn't, after a while, seem to be as upset about being on fire, but he just seems to...
Yeah, he gets used to it pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't like that he burns everything, but...
Yeah, this is an interesting sort of, we could even call this a modern Prometheus.
Yeah, no, it very much is Frankenstein.
It's a sort of a Frankenstein tale, but a twist on it, and I like it. At first, I wasn't even sure if the Human Torch was sort of like a sentient robot, but it quickly is revealed that he is.
He also knows a lot for someone that has been conscious for potentially a week, because at one point this corrupt gangster is just like, I'm going to take this torch... this robot, and rather than selling it, I'm just gonna have it burn down a steel mill if the owner doesn't pay me a small pittance of protection money. So he just puts the robot in there, and the robot's like, why is everything catching on fire? I don't like this. Yeah. He's using me for racketeering. How do you know what racketeering is, you flaming dumbass?
Yeah, he
he knows so much about the concept of morality and racketeering, and I'm like...
He quickly, at the beginning of the issue, he's kind of confused, because he's on fire.
A racketeering alarm that he was programmed with?
Yeah, but clearly he was programmed with, the knowledge of a human adult.
Yeah.
And I love that he is a hero, but not super heroic. He's sort of an anti-hero.
Yeah, he tries to do good as much as you can when you're on fire and everything around you catches fire.
Yeah.
Eventually, somehow, he finds out that pouring nitrous on himself, this is still confusing.
You would think
allows him to just control his powers.
You would think that would light you more on fire.
Yeah, and somebody tries to shoot him, and it just melts because he's still hot.
Yeah.
After deflaming.
I think by the end of the issue...
weird.
I think by the end of the issue he figures out how to control it just by will.
Yeah, also apparently because he's God Blue and Red Flame, he can jump really high. like Superman. It's not very well explained.
I will say I do like this issue, but
I love this issue.
The flame, the art is not always that great. The flames look kind of weird.
Yeah, he looks a lot like a flame demon. Like crooked smile. Like, he enjoys it.
Oh,
At points when he's like burning the racketeering guy, and he's like, "Die, rat."
Yeah. Now,
and then he, like, burns this guy's entire house and his secret anti-flame base that he melts into, that he just had, and he's like, "I'm gonna get you." And then this guy tries to throw, like, sulfuric acid at him. It explodes before he can even get him, and he's like, he's dead by his own hands. And it's like, your own intervention very much caused this Human Torch.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I had never read this
I
one
like
before.
the ending where he gets back in the custody of the scientist, and the scientist's like, "I can make money off of you," and he's like, "Even you are corrupted by the promise of me," and then just leaps out of burns a hole in the ceiling and just leaps away.
Everybody forgets he can just burn a hole through anything.
Yeah, no. The judge even says, "Oh, I might as well just let him go free because he'd probably just burn a hole in the jail and walk out."
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the original Human Torch in, like, the modern.
I think he
Marvel
became
canon.
Vision. Like, his body was used as basis for Vision. I believe so.
I don't know. I know Vision's
that might have been
brain is
retconned.
Wonder Man's.
But
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Someday I'll look it up.
Yeah.
To check back in next episode.
We could have an entire episode probably delving into the lore of this character that I absolutely love.
Oh yeah, he's great.
The robot that just burns when he's exposed to oxygen.
This story is somewhat recapped in the first issue of Marvels.
Alex Ross, he's kind of the start of the Marvel Universe before even Captain America. And he is referenced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, he's
in Captain America. There's a robot in a glass tube, and I'm just assuming that somewhere somebody was like, "I'm going to unveil my robot to the world that has never touched oxygen until this point," and then it caught on fire.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so the rest of the issue, like some of these others, is a sort of anthology. So next we get the Angel, not the X-Men Angel, but...
This guy with a really dumb costume.
Yeah, this guy... I read this story. I couldn't tell you a thing about it. It was really generic.
It looked like it. I skipped it.
I don't blame you. I read it and simultaneously skipped it because I can't remember a thing. My one note here is... My one, like, important note is that, like, in so many of these old comics, we touched on this before, these heroes will just kill people.
Yeah, a lot of murder.
The sort of moral compass that is in a lot of today's heroes where people don't like to kill... Not there.
Moving on to Submariner. Speaking of someone who kills, some people are diving, and then a figure with weird wings on his feet comes out of the ship that they're in, and he just thinks, robots, crushes the diving helmets, popping their heads like grapes.
Yeah.
This is after he cut their line, so they're drowning in their diving suits.
Uh-huh.
And he just crushes them like grapes. And this is the beginning of the Submariner's quest to fight against the white race.
Yeah.
Hello, Base Department.
Submariner is evil Aquaman.
Yeah, he's Submariner, kind of very enjoyable. Like, he is just as much of a dick as he later would be portrayed as.
Yeah, this guy is still around.
They almost set it up as him having, like, a chance for a redemption arc in the first issue. Because he's, like, very much kind of just this subservient. He's not the king of Atlantis. He's just subservient to the whims of the king of Atlantis and his mother.
His mother looks real weird.
Yeah, his mother's blue. But, mentioned she looks a lot like the white race. They mentioned the white race, like, a lot in this one. Namor does not have a problem with all humans, just the whites.
Yeah, I'm not sure he knows other humans exist.
Yeah, I think he'd probably be like, you're not white,
Namor
you get a pass.
A half human too, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is Aquaman, but evil.
Yeah, he is interesting. And I know that the first crossover of all comics is him fighting the Human Torch. And I could be wrong, but I believe it ends with Namor deciding to go to the path of the angels.
I couldn't tell you about that. But I do know, not in this comic, but pretty soon, like the first big sort of event is when he floods New York City.
Yeah, that's his fight with Human Torch.
Yeah. And then Human Torch comes and stops him.
Yeah, and I think he changes his mind and becomes a hero.
Yeah.
He definitely decides to fight the Nazis at some point.
He's still kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Later on. I mean, to this day.
Yeah, he's much... In Jason Aaron's Avengers, he's basically back on his bullshit.
Yeah.
He's saying, no, you're not allowed on the water humans.
He flip-flops around a lot.
Yeah, he just commits murder, though.
Oh, yeah.
He's, like, remorseful about it somewhat.
A little bit.
When he, like, realizes that he killed people. I mean, not very much, but he's like, Mother, are you sure this is a good idea? And she's like, yeah. He's got a Norman Bates relationship with this mother, kind of. It's interesting.
I was going to talk about his mother. His mother's pretty weird.
Yeah, she, went to spy on the white race and, got married.
Yeah.
Because, you need to be married to conceive a child.
Yeah,
Doesn't work.
The circumstances of his birth are a little weird.
Yeah. So I think he predates Aquaman, right?
I think so.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, they're very different characters.
They're the same character, and
it feels like a Swamp Thing Man Thing. Yeah. That's an idea for a future episode, talking about Swamp Thing and Man Thing.
Yeah, they're very much the same character, but very, very different.
Yeah.
Like, their characterizations are completely different, but they're also both half-human kings of Atlantis.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he looks like kind of like a man, but he's got like elf ears and he's got wings on his feet.
Yeah. If you've seen Brightburn, he's almost like the Brightburn version of Aquaman.
Yeah, but his mom and a lot of the other sea people look like fish people.
Yeah, no. And there's a lot of diversity of just how they look in Atlantis.
Yeah, I have not read much anymore.
Some look like a shellfish. Some are just like people, but blue.
Yeah.
Maybe with wings on their feet, maybe not.
I was originally a little confused, but I do enjoy it, actually. It's pretty good, especially compared to Aquaman, where I think most sea people that I've seen in Aquaman are mostly human, though I think a little less nowadays.
Yeah, I think in Aquaman, I'm not going to say any knowledge of Aquaman lore. I have nothing.
I've read,
haven't even seen the movie. I've
really?
not read any Aquaman, not seen the movie.
I actually recommend the movie. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
It's dumb fun.
Yeah. But that's about all there is to it.
Yeah. Next, I skipped even a couple of these short stories. The rest of the issue does not have much lasting stuff. There's a western set in Cactusville.
I like that.
It's a Lone Ranger ripoff. That's about it. It's the Masked Raider. It's the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. Timely Comics is a little fast and loose with copying ideas.
So many comics of this era, even more than Timely Comics.
Oh, once Stan Lee gets in, he copies hard.
Oh, yeah, well, the whole industry.
Oh, yeah.
I watched a documentary, and I'm sorry that I can't properly, tell you exactly what the whole story was with this guy saying things, but some author famously asked another author who wrote Blue Beetle, the original Blue Beetle, not Ted Kord, not
Jaime
Reyes, not the interesting ones. The original Blue Beetle was originally published by some independent publisher. I can't remember what. Or not independent, but not as big.
Charlton, right?
Yeah, Charlton. But possibly, I think...
It might have even predated Charlton.
Yeah, I think it was somebody before that, even. I could be wrong, though. But he asked the author, what inspired you to make
Dick Tracy, right?
Blue Beetle? Or, well, that too, definitely inspired by that. But the Blue Beetle... suit and moniker, he asked what inspired you to do this, and he just said to him, Green Hornet.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, so...
bug color.
Yeah.
I got an idea.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's one called Jungle Terror. That one I found really confusing and maybe a little bit racist. But we'll move past that. It's just some people land in the jungle in Africa, or travel to the jungle in Africa, and they're both trying to compete over some lost treasure or something. It was boring.
Fun stuff.
Skipped even the next one. Didn't even write down what it was. The last one in the comic, or at least the last one I read, was the first appearance of Kazar. I'm not sure it's pronounced that. K-A-Z-A-R.
I don't think anyone has even thought about how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's definitely live action, or not live action, but animated appearances.
Yeah, he does appear in modern comics. He lives in the Savage Land. Yeah, I think he's king of the Savage Land. They don't mention the Savage Land here. It's just...
Oh, that's weird.
It's just some nameless jungle that he landed in. Savage Land is mostly an X-Men sort of place that's just a jungle in Antarctica that has dinosaurs still. I don't even think they mentioned dinosaurs here. Can't remember. Or really, this story is just a Tarzan ripoff.
Yeah.
The same as the last one was a Lone Ranger ripoff. He just lands in the jungle and becomes a jungle man. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. We can move past Marvel Comics #1. Then we talked about the interesting ones.
Yeah.
Next we can talk about this one. This one's great. This one was a great one. I enjoyed this one. Amazing Fantasy #15.
Yeah, no, this
first appearance of Spider-Man.
Great one. Like, this is one of those stories where, like, it doesn't, like, that story has not changed. Like, Action Comics changed, Detective Comics, not even an origin.
Yeah.
This just, like, establishes an origin and, like, with a short amount of time, manages to set everything up perfectly. Like, by today's standards, the stuff with Uncle Ben is kind of, you could view it as creepy, but I don't, and I think you'd be wrong for thinking that. Yeah. Like, it just shows that this, like, even though this is his aunt and uncle, they love him dearly, and, like, Peter is, like, very, like, shown as very loved, like, and he has a good home life, despite not being popular in high school.
Yeah, this was great, and this is pretty much the same, like,
yeah,
none of
the
story
like,
has changed.
Uncle
Ben gets shot.
Yeah, he goes to wrestle.
He wrestles.
They say, like, $100 to the man who can last 3 minutes in the ring with Crusher Hogan.
Yeah, exactly. It's if you want to read this comic and don't want to read this comic, watch like the first half hour of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, it's just the same. Like, it establishes, like, he is very loved by his aunt and uncle, and, like, even, like, the comic, like, it establishes, like, you feel his loss. Like, one half of the good part of his life is just gone because of his selfish choice. It makes it so heartbreaking. Like, even knowing Uncle Ben dies, you're like, oh my god, Uncle Ben cared a lot for him, and, like...
Yeah.
He's just, like... You can feel, like, his rage. Like, it very much sets up... Also, I don't think with great power comes great responsibility is mentioned. Like, that is just
But Uncle Ben never says it.
Yeah, Uncle Ben never says it. It's a lesson that he internalizes because of his loss.
Final panel of this comic, it's just a little I don't know what there's a technical term for it that's not coming to me, but it's just like text.
Speech bubble, yeah.
Yeah, Stan Lee
or
says
not
it, basically.
Speech bubble, text box.
Yeah, it's Stan Lee. It's just narration.
And, like, I don't know, it's just a perfect origin. It sets up, like, this tragic element that, like, now he needs to be Spider-Man because he knows, like, this will happen to other people.
Yeah, and
I don't want them to go through that pain. It's great.
Yeah, and I think, interestingly enough, and that this sort of comes up in a lot of this Stan Lee era of Marvel Comics that we're getting into here, towards the beginning and through this issue, Pete here is not really a nice guy. Yeah. I mean, he is, but, like, he's
kind of creepy. He's a bit of an incel at points. He's like,
yeah,
man, you want to go on a date with me?
Yeah, I mean,
for the last time, Peter, no. And it's like, oh, okay, he's just been harassing her.
Yeah, well, he gets, like, hardcore bullied.
Also, he's surprisingly confident, which is definitely not something in later adaptations. Being willing to go up to, like, girls, like...
Yeah, he's confident, but he does get bullied a lot.
Yeah.
Like, people really don't seem to like him.
Yeah, no, he is not liked at all. Oh, his original costume for fighting in the wrestling ring is awful. I hate it. I love the Raimi one so much more.
Yeah.
His take on his wrestling costume.
Well, alright, now...
Before he gets the webbed one.
Yeah, I'm getting a little derailed here, but another great retelling of this issue would be the first 6, I believe, issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, which I would like to cover sometime, because that's this issue just spread out more, and it tells a great story.
Yeah. And I mean, this one does still tell a really good story, like, with very quick amount of time. Also, fun note, the story after this is more... I have a deep interest in the Amazing Fantasy, like, the Marvel comics that came before they were doing superheroes, when Stan Lee was just, like, throwing batshit aliens and monsters at us.
This is the final issue of Amazing Fantasy.
I know.
That's how Spider-Man got in.
Yeah, no, this killed, like, Amazing Fantasy and became Spider-Man.
Amazing Fantasy was getting canceled before this.
Yeah.
And Stan Lee had the chance to write Spider-Man because they didn't really want to publish Spider-Man. But they said, do whatever you want for this last issue. It's getting canceled anyway.
Yeah. What's a fun story is they tell this pretty bog standard tale, like, like Amazing Fantasy tale that's like the lighthouse bell guy. Mm-hmm. And all I remember from it is that they mentioned, this is the story you will never forget, right after they show you Amazing Fantasy 15's Spider-Man intro.
Yeah.
And I've already forgotten it.
Yeah. Marvel Unlimited crapped out on me.
It's just very funny. Like, it's the very Stan Lee self-aggrandizing, like, this is the story for the ages, pals.
I do kind of like Stan Lee's sort of text bubble narration, though. It does.
No. And I'm not, like, shitting on it at all. I love it. It is my jam that he's, you know, like, so confident in his stories.
Yeah. Oh, something I did find interesting that is a slightly different than modern versions of the story I've read, though this version is still like the canonical. Marvel doesn't like to retcon stuff too much.
Yeah, no, they really don't.
To their benefit and detriment.
Yeah.
But that, like, he pretty much gets his powers instantly. Like, he gets bit by the spider and then has the powers.
Yeah, there's no real delay.
Yeah, like a lot of the modern films or whatever, he like wakes up the next day and now he's buff or whatever.
Yeah, no, he just steps out to get some air and leaps like 15 feet into onto a wall to get, because he's about to get hit by a car.
Yeah, I actually do think that I've read this issue before, like repackaged as like a kid's book.
Probably. I think it's a classic. It's a good one.
It had pretty much the same art and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting, sort of like the beginning of the comic, like the first few pages, felt sort of like this, like, teen, like, almost Archie sort of style.
Yeah, early on it does have that, but also one thing interesting with Aunt May, she's like a reverse Nightwing. She seems to age in reverse.
Oh, Aunt May rages in reverse.
She's so old in this. She's so old in this. And Peter has grown and she's gotten younger.
I actually support that, because, like, she's, like, in these early comics especially, she's like 90 or something.
Yeah, no, she is
the age gap is wild.
Light breeze away from being in the grave.
Yeah. I think the comics typically keep her kind of old, but...
Also, I'm thinking about it, this is a side tangent. I remember in the early comics, it's such a plot point of, like, if Aunt May finds out I'm Spider-Man, she'll, like, probably have heart failure. She watched her husband get shot in front of her. I think she'll be alright, Peter.
Yeah.
You're giving her a little bit...
Aunt May of this era credit. She loves Spider-Man, but she has some weird plot going on. I mean, she's like one step from senile in some later comics.
Yeah.
She could be his grandmother. I'm not exactly like...
Yeah,
I like the slightly younger version. Now, in the comics, they never really aged her down that much. Though she's more like, I don't know, 70 rather than 90 or something.
Yeah, no, she is very old. As is Uncle Ben here.
Yeah, but they seem like weirdly kind of old to be his aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can see it happens, but... Mm-hmm. But it really seems more like his grandparents, almost.
Yeah. I don't know. It's great, though. Love this one.
Great. About half the issue is Spider-Man, and then there's a couple short stories. Like I said, my Marvel Unlimited crapped out in the short stories, and I did not feel the need to go back.
I lightly skimmed through them just because I enjoy them.
Yeah. I read the first 1.5 or so.
Okay.
We have 2 more. Jeez, we read a lot of these.
Yeah, we maybe have overdid it.
Yeah, we may bit off a bit more than we can chew.
Might need to be 2 parts. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe we'll split this up in the DC.
You'll find out.
We'll see how long it takes to record.
We'll find out how long when we check the timeline.
Yeah, when we do another one of these, we probably will not be reading so many individual issues, and hopefully just like 1 or 2, maybe 3.
And not going
arcs.
as in depth.
Yeah. All right. Next, this one's fun because it's weird. Tales to Astonish number.
Yes, this is my
27.
jam.
This is the first appearance of Hank Pym Ant-Man.
Yes. Which is interesting because he is not Ant-Man.
He is not Ant-Man at all.
I think there's a different woman in his life other than... I'm not remembering this. I'm just remembering it getting mentioned. It gets brought up in an Avengers run that he had another love.
Probably.
No, he's just a scientist here.
Yeah.
And it's basically the Incredible Shrinking Man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my first note on this one, though, is that this comic has some real good Jack Kirby art.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I love about the old Marvel comics, like from like what they call the Monster Age, which I love that Marvel, like, they have such a dedication to canon in Marvel that it's canon that just during the 50s to like early 60s, life was just miserable on Earth. Aliens were showing up every other week, and it's getting stopped by, like, a slight coincidence. Like, Earth was just in terrible danger, no superheroes to protect them, just monsters showing up, just society should not have progressed as much as it did. It should have been sent back to the Dark Ages because of how much stuff happens.
Yeah. Well, back to this story. This is Honey, I Shrunk the Hank Pym.
It's a horror comic.
Yeah, it's like a horror thriller kind of...
Yeah, it's like Hank Pym, just a unknowing scientist, gets shrunken down to ant size and just has to survive the ants.
They don't talk about Pym particles, but he has some, like, potion that he's created. And he's like, these other scientists who thinks I'm nuts, they're gonna believe me now. I'll prove them wrong. I'm drinking this potion, and it works. He shrinks down. But he's a big dummy. He can't reach the potion that shrinks him back.
Yeah. No, it's so good. And he's just like, I'm in trouble now. And has to, like, survive, like, ants, which are, like, ferocious.
Yeah.
Like, God, I wish this were a part of, like, I wish this were a part of... I don't know if it's a part of the Ant-Man movie, but it should have been.
It's not really, but...
It should have been. Like...
But it does have some interesting implications, because he ends up, like, sort of communicating with the ants. Not directly, but, like, by the end, he sort of gets the ants vaguely on his side, and, like, uses them to get back to the potion that makes him big.
Yeah, it's so good.
And so this is fun, because they went back to these themes when they were deciding to create Ant-Man.
Yeah, no, they decided, like, a few weeks later, or a few months later.
Yeah, this is...
not the next issue, even. They're just like, hey, that was a popular story. What if we bring it back?
This is issue 27. I had originally written it down wrong because of the Ant-Man weirdness. Like, Hank Pym as Ant-Man... Ant-Man is introduced in Tales to Astonish 35. This is 27.
Yeah.
So just less than 10 issues later, they decide, let's go back to that Hank Pym guy and make him a superhero.
Yeah. And it's just so cool. I love that.
Yeah, and I like that he sort of has this built-in origin. Though, it does make the end of this issue weird. Because at the end of the issue, he's like, I gotta destroy this potion and never use it again. And,
which is a very Hank Pym thing to do, as it would later be established. You'd just be like, oh no, I've created something that will ruin humanity.
Yeah, let me just throw it out. And then, like, the scientists who made fun of him for his idea are like, hey, did your idea ever work? And he's like, nope, you were right. I'm a fool. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's so good. I'm trying to remember, because I read many years ago the first Ant-Man appearance, and he just, like, for no reason, is like, I was wrong.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, very fun, though.
It was a fun issue, and the art by Jack Kirby was really great.
Cannot recommend the Marvel Monster Age enough. Like, just Tales to Astonish, Journey into Mystery, like, before they become superhero comics.
Journey into Mystery quickly became Thor, didn't it?
Yeah, Journey into Mystery's dark. I think it even predates the Comics Code. Like, it's 100 issues in by the time that Thor shows up, or something like that.
Really? I didn't realize it was that far in.
It's one of the older ones.
Excuse me.
I think it existed concurrently to Captain America.
I don't know. Which I read Captain America for this as well. That was wild.
Do you want to talk about that one?
I can quickly talk about Captain America.
I didn't.
Yeah, Skylar
forgot.
Didn't read this one. Oh my god. But you know what, Skylar, you don't need to. It's no good. Captain America #1 is not that good. I cannot recommend it. I would recommend watching the movie. You know, it tells the same story but better.
Yeah, Bucky's not a...
Oh, Bucky. Bucky is everything wrong with Robin, and only that.
Yeah.
Bucky's really annoying in this, and he makes no sense. This was art by Jack Kirby, which is good.
Very young Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby does great art, and I'll bring him up again later. I mean, these Marvel issues quickly get into being a lot of Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And Jack Kirby's art is incredible.
I absolutely love it. Like, there's nobody that does something like him. Like,
it was so influential on...
Yeah, it's not natural looking, but it looks good.
Yeah. Now, here in Captain America, he had not really reached that peak yet.
I think he was under 18 when he wrote it.
Yeah, he was very young.
Also ready to tumble with a Nazi who came into the Timely studios. I was telling Alex about this beforehand. You know the famous cover, Captain America punches a Nazi. An American Nazi had a huge issue with that, came to the Timely lobbies. It was like, bring me the head of the man who drew this. And Jack, like, you know, the receptionist calls up Jack Kirby and says, like, there's a man here wanting to see you. He's a Nazi. He's really upset. Jack Kirby says, bet. Starts running down the stairs. The Nazi presumably hears boom, boom, boom of Jack Kirby coming down to rock his shit. He's gone by the time Jack Kirby gets there.
Yeah, Jack Kirby hates Nazis.
Yeah, no.
And
America was not involved in World War II by the time that Captain America came out.
Yeah, Captain America #1 came out before America was part of World War II.
Yeah, he just hated Nazis.
Clearly very much wanted America to get involved.
Very propagandistic, which
is very, 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 very much propaganda. And that's, good and bad, sort of. At the time, I could see how it might be a positive thing. America, Nazis were awful, and this comic was very anti-Nazi. Mm-hmm. Mind you, there's some kind of racist-looking things in this comic.
I'm not surprised.
The way the German Nazis are drawn is pretty racist, and I know that a couple years later, when they have some stories that
the Young Allies exists.
Yeah, and
I don't even want to talk about Young Allies.
A couple years later, there's they get into Japan and whatnot, and the character, the way that
DC is also guilty of this.
The Japanese
very guilty. Superman
drawn.
Guilty of this.
Yeah, well, it's the whole era that had some really awful depictions of Japanese people,
black people too.
Oh
Young Allies, Whitewash Jones.
Yeah, there's so many racist characters in this era.
Yeah,
and a lot of them, especially in Captain America, had this sort of propaganda angle to sort of demonize the enemy, and it's not great.
Yeah,
especially looking back on it.
Yeah, it's very upsetting.
I don't have too much more to say about this.
Yeah.
There was some extra stories in the back of Captain America #1. They were bad. I skipped over them. Red Skull shows up and dies.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know when they get to the classic Red Skull, but this guy was just an assassin wearing a Red Skull mask. But yeah, the stories weren't that great. The origin of Captain America was kind of interesting. Done way better in the movie. Watch the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of these, we talked about Marvel's love for canon, love for a storyline that doesn't change. Much of these Captain America comics are changed.
Yeah, Captain America is
the exception
for retcons. I think
Captain America was kind of a mess.
And also after World War II, huge mess. Captain America Commie Smasher, they retconned that so it wasn't Steve Rogers.
Yeah, much of the post-World War II Captain America kept running.
And at one point it becomes a horror comic, which I dearly want to read. When there are 3 issues, Captain America's Weird Tales, I think, where it just is a straight horror comic. I want to read that so bad. Marvel, please put it on Marvel Unlimited. Wanted to read it for years.
So a lot of these Captain America comics have problematic things and stuff, so they don't really want to go back to some of these.
Weird Tales, though, I want it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot, but there was years of Captain America that ran after World War II.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you are a Marvel fan, you know that Captain America was frozen after World War II.
Yeah, that was a retcon.
That was in Avengers.
Yeah.
Once they decided on the Avengers, they were like, let's bring Captain America back. And they were like, well, Captain America's still running. Or maybe it wasn't still running at that point, but it had
stopped
been.
For the Marvel Age. But it had been horror running. Comics were where, those 3 issues of Captain America's Weird Tales were just, straight horror comics that featured less and less of Captain America over the course of 3 issues.
Yeah.
Because after World War II, people didn't want superhero comics. They wanted horror, westerns, and crime.
Captain America was... I can't imagine... this era, what I read in this Captain America is straight propaganda. After World War II was over, I don't know what they'd be writing.
Yeah, no, Timely stopped doing it. They just leaned into horror comics.
Yeah, so they brought him back in Avengers, but there was a number of years of Captain America content that they didn't want to have anything to do with.
Yeah.
And so they later was just like, oh, that was a different guy. That wasn't Steve Rogers. He was frozen in ice. But whatever. We can move on to something we both read and isn't as bad. Such as our final issue, X-Men.
I disagree about it not being bad.
Yeah, I misspoke when I said not as bad.
This one, should be great. Creative team: Stan Lee, Jack Kirby.
This was one of the first ones I read. I love X-Men.
I like the Krakoa era. I haven't really read much else because it's such an impenetrable wall to get into X-Men.
If you're starting X-Men, don't start here.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's not
like,
that good.
Even not knowing much about X-Men, it is very different. And it's just, the teenage kids, like, and I think, I don't know, I tossed around the idea of reading Doom Patrol, but, like, I don't know, I am inclined to believe the allegations that this kind of stole a bit from Doom Patrol.
I'm not sure which came first or whatever.
Oh, Doom Patrol came first, I believe. But it's also a timeline where it could have not been. It's a debate.
Well, regardless, Stanley and Jack Kirby, amazing, both of them. Neither one is very
Neither
good.
element looks great here. It's not the fun, like, Stanley, bombastic, like, crazy plot lines. It's just very basic, like, oh, there's some weird people here.
Yeah. It kind of felt like phoning it in. For Jack Kirby especially, the art, like, we just gushed about Jack Kirby. This does not look that good.
Yeah, Iceman's design is horrible. I hate
Iceman
him. He
looks like a literal snowman.
He at one point becomes a literal snowman.
Yeah.
He's also written super annoying, and I believe we didn't read it.
Most of the characters are super annoying.
Yeah. No, and like when
everybody is horny for Jean Grey.
It's literally like I didn't think it could be, but X-Men might have been hornier in its first introduction than it is during the Krakoa era.
Yeah, and the Krakoa area, everybody is hooking up.
Yeah, no, like they're just walking around nude at times.
It's literally like a hippie sort of commune.
One thing I did like, and this is weird. Like we should just, I guess, start with the training exercise that they have to do. The whole elements of the Danger Room almost killing the X-Men. Professor X is the one just controlling it and almost killing his X-Men. Like, oh gosh,
and they don't get along.
Yeah.
When we start with the X-Men here, it is Iceman, Cyclops, and Beast, and Angel. 4 of them.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing. None of them really get along. The relationship between Iceman and Beast is very much the relationship between the Human Torch and the Thing.
You're right.
It is almost a copy-paste, Iceman annoys Beast. Also, Beast is not like the intellectual. He's another Jack Kirby self-insert, like the Thing.
Oh, yeah. He's just a buff dude.
Yeah, using the same lingo as the Thing. He, for all intents and purposes, is smooth-skinned Thing.
Yeah, he kind of even looks like Jack Kirby.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, oh my god, it's another Jack Kirby self-insert. Like, I have no doubt that he's a Jack Kirby self-insert, and, he's changed a lot as a character, but that first, he's just a knucklehead,
Yeah.
He's basically the Thing. Uses the same, lingo.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot weird about this issue.
Yeah.
And like I said, we just gushed about how good Jack Kirby's art is, but this issue, the art is not good.
Yeah, Xavier is also an asshole in this.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
Everyone's not that nice.
Yeah, only one that's somewhat redeemable is kind of Iceman, I think.
Iceman's okay. He's kind of, I don't know.
One thing that is interesting...
He's the least horny for Jean Grey.
Yes, and that includes Xavier.
Yeah, he's not too bad in this issue, but he does get bad later.
Oh, okay, that is interesting because I noted, Xavier is I sense our new student is here, and she's beautiful.
Yeah, you're right.
He's, mentally,
You're right.
How are you able to know this? You haven't seen, also that's creepy, she's underage, what the f***, Xavier?
Yeah, everything's weird.
And then everybody, gathers around the window. Except for Bobby, who just leaves, and I'm like, maybe him being gay makes sense, actually.
Yeah, I noted that.
Yeah, I'm like,
right here.
I think that should have been shown to people who, his literal first appearance, I'm like, maybe this should have been shown to people who thought it was weird that he was gay.
Yeah, he immediately, everybody's like, oh my god, a girl, Jean Grey. And he's just like, oh, why are you guys so girl-obsessed?
Yeah.
And he's right.
I'm sure it was probably because he's, the young one of the group and hasn't hit puberty yet, I'm guessing.
I don't even know. I don't know how old they're supposed to be.
Also, at one point, Xavier tells Beast to just throw a f***ing bowling ball at Iceman's head.
Oh, yeah. It's weird. This whole issue's weird. And like I said, it really kind of feels like phoning it in, both on the Jack Kirby and the Stanley.
X-Men are in more mortal danger from each other in the training than they are from Magneto when he later shows up.
Magneto does show up.
He uses metal in the dust particles to write a message to the military, and he signs his name in cursive with the dust particles, which I thought was really fucking funny. And then the people are rightfully just like, Magneto? What the fuck? Who the fuck is this?
Yeah. I noted some weird art on page 15. I obviously can't pull it up, but word bubbles covered Magneto on that page.
Yeah, Magneto also doesn't look that great.
No, I do love some of his dialogue because he's really hammy.
It's that hammy dialogue.
Oh, it's great. He's really powerful in this first issue.
He's able to just lift things that aren't metal by using the metal around them.
He widely changes in his power levels over comics. Usually he's very powerful. This starts him off there. Professor X flew the plane with his mind.
Also, this, it's interesting because the plot line of this is very loosely the basis for X-Men First Class, Magneto starting a missile crisis.
Yeah, that movie's much better, though.
Yeah, no, by a lot. But I found that interesting that they did that. Also, when the X-Men show up to help the military, for a group that's, trying to gain acceptance, they just, bowl the military out of the way.
But that sort of X-Men...
Jean Grey just throws them mentally.
Yeah, that sort of X-Men trying to gain acceptance and being hated and stuff is not really touched, I think,
not
at all.
Too much here. The military, after, they get bowled out of the way by the X-Men, they're just oh, the X-Men are good with me.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not that good.
Also, Angel, just appears to float in air. They don't really show motion for him flapping his wings.
Yeah,
which he shouldn't really be able to just hover in a room.
It's kind of weird because I think of Jack Kirby as showing a lot of motion usually.
Yeah, it's very clear this was the last one that he had to do on a Friday probably.
Yeah, this his Fantastic Four of the era is much better art. And you mentioned earlier that maybe it was the inker or the colorist.
Yeah, I was beforehand I was was this Vince Colletta? Because I know that Vince Colletta gets a lot of flack for destroying Jack Kirby art.
Yeah, so
it is inking. There's no Kirby crackle here. There's not a lot of the stuff you'd normally expect from Jack Kirby. It's just very basic.
I do think that regardless, you can kind of tell that he enjoys drawing Fantastic Four more, and Stan Lee probably enjoys writing it more.
I'm not surprised that X-Men got canceled early on.
Yeah,
before Chris Claremont was the one that brought it back and made it famous.
I wrote in my notes here, I miss Chris Claremont.
Yeah, this is not good. This is very basic.
Yeah,
it feels like there are too few of them.
It's pretty generic. It really just felt like they wanted to put out another hero comic and didn't want to work for creating backstory, so they made him have the powers from birth.
Yeah, there was also no elements of they couldn't fit into society. They all
everything
even Angel he can bind his wings. That's a plot point. They're largely there's no we aren't accepted in society.
Yeah, everything you know and love from X-Men is not here.
Yeah, it's not very good.
If you want to read X-Men, start elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
One of my notes here does specifically say, I don't think Stan Lee knows how magnetism works.
Oh, no, definitely not. One thing that I love, early on, Xavier calls his students mentally, and he says tardiness will be punished, and that instilled a sense of deep dread in me. What does that mean? Does he just, remove your mind's ability to feel joy? Does he lobotomize you if you're late?
He probably just gives you an extra round in the danger room.
Yeah, you have to fight for your life.
Yeah, magnetism works real weird. There's some force fields caused by magnetism, but then Cyclops' eye blasts can just blast right through him.
Yeah.
Cyclops' eye blasts are always vague about what they are or how they work. And they're vague here.
Yeah, back on the Danger Room courses, Angel's course, for someone who can fly, his is filled with so much, mortal, threats. He almost gets crushed or burned alive.
Now
Xavier seems to hate him.
Yeah, this issue's weird.
Cyclops is still insufferable. He's about the only one that's consistent. He's such a suck up.
Yeah.
Also, he's not named Scott Summers.
Is he not?
No, he's named Slim Summers.
Oh, I thought that was a nickname.
He's never referred to as Scott in this. I checked.
Really?
He's just Slim Summers.
Weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
This one, okay, I will come back here. A couple of these comics of this era, especially for Marvel, Incredible Hulk and whatnot, and X-Men here, they mention this atomic radiation, and it sort of feels like it definitely infused with the the sort of like 60s era fear and awe of atomic radiation.
Yeah,
it's very atomic era.
Yeah, which was a theme in the comics I was reading. They're like Monster Age.
Yeah.
And just this origin is like the weakest one Marvel's done, the one that's changed the most. They never really call back to it.
Yeah, all of your favorite X-Men, Wolverine, Storm.
Yeah, none of the good ones
those
are there.
All from Giant Size X-Men #1, which is where Chris Claremont picked up.
Yeah, it's just...
Chris Claremont also has some not great X-Men comics, but definitely, if you want to read classic X-Men, just start there. This is not it.
Yeah, this is very weak.
Yeah, there's some okay ideas, which they later expanded in better X-Men comics.
Yeah, no, and I totally believe this being a Doom Patrol knockoff because of just how generic it is.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, it really feels like they just needed to fill a quota, which is surprising because this would become the company's bread and butter for decades.
Yeah, until they wanted to kill them off.
Yeah.
But we could talk about that another time. Day. All right, that is our final issue.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll finally be done.
Yeah.
And I am glad to be done with some of these comics.
Yeah, me too. Comics have definitely evolved a lot. Hopefully will evolve and get better. Because they're slow paced. They're very painful to get through. Like, it was a lot to get through all of these.
Yeah, I love to read comics. 10 issues of comics for me. Well, I
don't think we talk about
quite 10.
But these are difficult to get through.
Yeah, I can read this many comics in a day, yet somehow this took me like a couple weeks.
Yeah, same. But
so,
thank you for tuning into our podcast. Thanks for checking it out.
Thank you. Please tune in again. Hopefully next time for Halloween we might be talking about some vampire comics.
Yeah, I've been reading some Vampirella for a while.
And I want to talk about Scott Snyder and Stephen King's American Vampire.
Probably much better than Vampirella.
Probably, but I'll talk about
vampires. I still like Vampirella, though. Not in a creepy way.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you then.